The stars burned cold above Vethkar Prime, as 63 warships formed a perfect ring of death around the blue-green world. Fleet Commander Zixthel stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, his insectoid eyes reflecting the glow of tactical displays. His forearms were folded behind his back in the posture of absolute confidence. The HFY hegemony had conquered 17 species in the last century. The Vethkari would be the 18th dot below him. The planet rotated slowly. Cities of crystal and living coral dotted the coastlines of vast oceans. The Vethkari were builders of beauty, creators of art, philosophers who had spent 10,000 years perfecting the science of peace. They had no real military. Their 12 defense cruisers now drifted as burning wreckage in the void, destroyed in less than an hour. "Transmission complete, Commander," his communications officer reported. "The Vethkari have received our terms." Zixthel clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. The terms were simple. Surrender, accept slavery, serve the hegemony in the mines and factories where their delicate hands would be useful, or face orbital bombardment that would turn their crystal cities to glass and ash. "They have 6 hours to respond," Zixthel said. "Begin preparation of the landing forces." On the surface of Vethkar Prime, panic spread through the population like wildfire. The Vethkari were amphibians, their skin soft and bioluminescent. In times of peace, they glowed with gentle colors: blue for calm, green for joy, gold for love. Now, millions of them flickered with the dull red of terror. Elder Luminara stood in the council chamber of the great temple, surrounded by the leaders of her world. She was old, her glow fading with age, but her mind remained sharp. She had led her people through floods, through plagues, through every natural disaster their world could produce. But she had never faced this. She had never faced evil that came from the stars with weapons and demands. "We must surrender," said Councillor Veth. His light pulsed with fear. "We cannot fight them. Our fleet is destroyed. Our people will die." "If we surrender, our people will still die," another councillor argued. "Slowly in their minds, working until their light goes out." Luminara raised her hand for silence. "There is another option." The councillors turned to her. She moved to the ancient communication array, a device that had not been used in centuries. Her fingers touched controls covered in dust. "Elder, what are you doing?" Councillor Veth asked, calling for help. "The Galactic Council has already responded. They will not intervene. The HFY are too powerful, they say. War would destabilize the quadrant, they say." Luminar's glow shifted to something the councillors had never seen in her before. It was pale, almost white, the color of desperate hope. "I am not calling the Galactic Council." She entered coordinates that existed in no official database. Coordinates passed down through generations as whispers, as legends, as prayers. Coordinates that pointed to a quarantined sector of space, blocked from all contact by order of the Council. "Elder," Councillor Veth whispered, "those coordinates, that is the Forbidden Zone. That is where the humans live. Yes, the Council quarantined them for a reason. They are dangerous. They are primitive. They are our only hope." Luminara pressed the transmission button. Her message was simple. "This is Vethkar Prime. We are under attack. We are dying. Please help us." The message flew into the void at faster-than-light speeds, aimed at a small yellow star circling an average planet where, 200 years ago, a species of apes had learned to travel between worlds, on the bridge of the HFY dreadnought. A junior officer looked up from his console. "Commander, we have detected an outgoing transmission from the planet's surface, long range, directed toward." He paused, checking his readings. "Toward the quarantine zone." Zixthel turned, his compound eyes glittering. The quarantine zone? You mean the human sector? Yes, Commander. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Zixtel began to laugh. It was a harsh sound, like metal scraping against stone. Other officers joined in, their mandibles clicking in amusement. The humans, Zixtel said. They called the humans for help. How delightfully pathetic. His tactical officer, an older veteran named Crixville, did not laugh. He stood rigid at his station, his eyes fixed on his console. You have something to say, Crixville? Zixtel asked. The tactical officer hesitated. Commander, there are rumors. About the humans. About what happened at the border conflict 3 decades ago. Rumors? What rumors? A hegemony patrol encountered a human vessel. A small ship. A scout. The patrol attacked. Crixval's voice dropped. The patrol was never heard from again. When we sent ships to investigate, they found only debris. Our debris. Zixtel waved a dismissive arm. One ship. One lucky shot. The humans are primitives. They only achieved faster-than-light travel 2 centuries ago. They have no advanced technology. They have no fleet. They have nothing that could threaten the might of the hegemony. Yes, Commander. But Crixval's eyes remained troubled. On Vethkar Prime, Elder Luminara sat in the council chamber and waited. The hours crawled by. Around her, her people prepared for death or slavery. Families gathered together. Parents held their children. Lovers said goodbye. The glow of the Vethkari grew dimmer and dimmer as hope faded. Councillor Veth approached Luminara as the 5th hour began. Elder, there has been no response. No one is coming. Luminara closed her eyes. Perhaps the stories were wrong. Perhaps the humans were dead or gone or simply did not care. Perhaps she had been a fool to believe in legends. Begin evacuation of the coastal cities, she said quietly. Move everyone to the deep shelters. It will not save them from orbital bombardment, but it might save some from the initial assault. She opened her eyes and looked out the window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, 63 ships waited to rain fire on her world. Somewhere up there? Her 12 brave cruisers drifted as frozen tombs, and somewhere, far away, a message was traveling toward a small blue planet where 8 billion humans lived their lives in quarantine, cut off from a galaxy that had judged them too dangerous to exist among civilized species. Elder Luminara did not know it yet, but that message had been received. It had been read, and in the orbital shipyards of Earth, a mountain of black steel and fury was already powering up its engines. The humans were coming, and everything was about to change. 5 hours had passed since the ultimatum. 1 hour remained before the Ethavari would begin their bombardment of Vethkar Prime. In the deep shelters beneath the crystal cities, millions of Vethkari huddled together in darkness. Their bioluminescent glow had faded to almost nothing. They held each other and waited for death. Elder Luminara sat alone in the council chamber. She had refused to go to the shelters. If her world was going to die, she would watch it happen. She owed her people that much. Above the planet, the Ethavari fleet had arranged itself into bombardment formation. Weapon systems charged. Targeting computers locked onto cities, farms, population centers. Fleet Commander Zixtel stood on his bridge, ready to give the order that would turn a living world into a graveyard. Commander, his communications officer said, the Vethkari have not responded to our terms. I did not expect them to. Zixtel straightened his posture. All ships, prepare to commander. The shout came from the sensor station. Zixtel turned, irritated at the interruption. What is it? There's something wrong with our sensors. Some kind of interference. We are losing contact with the outer patrol ships. Zixtel moved to the sensor station. The display was flickering, filled with static. One by one, The icons representing his patrol ships were disappearing. Explain this. I cannot, Commander. It is not a malfunction. It is interference. Something is blocking our signals. Then the communications officer screamed. Every speaker on every ship in the fleet erupted with sound. It was loud, aggressive, rhythmic. Drums pounded. Strange instruments wailed. A human voice shouted words that the translation systems could not process. The sound filled every bridge, every corridor, every cabin. What is that noise? Zixthel demanded. Shut it off. I cannot, Commander. It is on all frequencies. It is overriding our systems. The tactical officer, Crixful, had turned pale. His hands trembled over his console. Commander, he said quietly, I recognize this. The intelligence files on humans. This is their war music. They call it heavy metal. Before Zixthel could respond, the main view screen activated. A face appeared. A human face. Female, with dark skin and eyes that held no fear. She wore a uniform of black and silver, and behind her, Zixthel could see a bridge filled with humans moving with calm efficiency. This is Captain Amara Chun of the USS Thunderchild, Terran Union Navy 7th Battle Group. Her voice was clear and cold. You have attacked a species under our protection. You have one opportunity to withdraw. There will not be another warning. Zixthel stared at the screen. Then he laughed. One ship? You are threatening my fleet with one ship? He gestured at his tactical display. I have 63 warships. You are alone. Captain Chun smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Commander, I'm going to give you some free information. Your species has never fought humans before. You have no data on our weapons, our tactics, or our capabilities. So I will tell you what is going to happen. You are going to fire everything you have at my ship. And then you are going to learn why the galaxy quarantined us. The transmission ended. Zixthel's mandibles clicked in anger. Find that ship? All weapons, target and destroy. The sensor officer worked his console frantically. Commander, I have located the human vessel. It is emerging from subspace directly ahead of the fleet. On the view screen, space itself seemed to tear open. A ship emerged from the wound in reality. The bridge fell silent. The Thunderchild was not a ship. It was a weapon that happened to have engines. 4 kilometers of blackened steel, sharp angles, and aggression given physical form. It bristled with more guns than the Ethavari had ever seen on a single vessel. It had no elegance, no grace. It was designed for one purpose: destruction. Zixthel's dreadnought was the largest ship in his fleet. The Thunderchild was 4 times its size. That is one ship? Someone whispered. All ships, open fire. Zixthel screamed. Destroy it. The Ethari fleet unleashed everything they had. Plasma bolts by the thousands. Particle beams that could cut through mountains. Kinetic rounds the size of vehicles. Space between the fleet and the Thunderchild became a storm of destructive energy. The crew watched their screens, waiting for the human ship to die. It did not die. The Thunderchild's shields flared with a brilliant blue light. They held. More than held, they seemed to grow stronger with each impact. The weapons officer on Zixthel's bridge looked at his readings in disbelief. Their shields are adapting, he said. They are analyzing our weapons and adjusting in real time. Damage levels are dropping. We are now doing only 3% damage. Impossible, Zixthel breathed. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Captain Chun stood with her hands clasped behind her back. Around her, her crew worked with practiced ease. They had done this before. Many times. Weapons, she said calmly. Ready. Captain, light them up. The Thunderchild opened fire. Humanity had developed weapons technology in isolation, without the rules and agreements that governed galactic warfare. They had not learned to build elegant, precise instruments. They had learned to build overwhelming force. Railguns fired depleted uranium slugs at 1/10 the speed of light. The slugs punched through Athavari shields like paper. Plasma lances designed to be so hot that they simply ignored shielding, cut through warships from bow to stern. Point defense systems filled space with walls of flak, so dense that enemy missiles exploded before they could leave their launch tubes in the first 30 seconds. 6 HFY warships were destroyed. Zixthil watched in horror as his fleet died around him. Ships that had conquered worlds burst like fruit. Ships that had murdered millions became tombs for their crews. The Thunderchild moved through the formation like a predator through a herd of prey, its weapons never stopping, never slowing. Retreat! Zixthil screamed. All ships retreat! But the human ship was faster. Its engines burned with a light that hurt to look at. It made short jumps through subspace, appearing behind ships that tried to flee, cutting off escape routes, hurting the survivors on Vethkar Prime. Elder Luminara had felt the ground shake with the distant thunder of the battle. She had moved to the window of the council chamber and looked up at the sky. She saw lights, flashes, explosions, and then she saw something else. A Vethkari communication officer ran into the chamber, his skin blazing with colors she had never seen before. Colors that had no name. Colors of shock and awe and impossible hope. Elder! Elder, you must see this. The humans, they came. They are destroying the HFY fleet. Luminara's ancient heart began to pound. The stories were true. The humans had come, and the universe would never be the same. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes. 10 minutes to teach the HFY hegemony a lesson they would never forget. 41 warships burned in the void. 22 more drifted without power, their engines destroyed, their weapons silent. The survivors huddled in their escape pods or clung to life support in crippled vessels. Of the 63 ships that had come to conquer Vethkar Prime, none remained capable of fighting. Fleet Commander Zixthil stood on the bridge of his dreadnought. His ship was one of the crippled ones. Half of his crew was dead. The other half was trying to stop the fires that burned through the lower decks. His tactical officer, Crixville, lay unconscious on the floor, thrown from his station when a railgun slug had torn through the ship's midsection. The Thunderchild hung in space before them, untouched. Not a single Savary weapon had penetrated its shields. Not a single scratch marked its black hull. Zixthil's communications console crackled to life. Commander Zixthil. Captain Chun's voice was calm, almost pleasant. I am going to offer you something your species has never offered to others. Mercy. Zixthil's mandibles clicked weakly. Mercy? You have survivors in those wrecks. Good soldiers who followed orders. I am going to hold my fire for 30 minutes. That should give you enough time to conduct rescue operations. After that, any HFY ship still in this system will be destroyed. The commander stared at the screen. This made no sense. The HFY did not offer mercy. They did not expect it. When you won a battle, you finished your enemy. That was the way of things. Why? Zixthil asked. Why would you do this? Because I can. Chun paused. And because killing helpless people makes us less than what we should be. You have 30 minutes. I suggest you use them. The transmission ended. Zixthil looked around his ruined bridge. His officers stared at him, waiting for orders. Their eyes held something he had never seen in HFY soldiers before. Fear, confusion, and something else. Something that might have been shame. Launch rescue shuttles, Zixthil said quietly. All ships capable of movement, assist with evacuation. We leave in 30 minutes. The HFY worked in silence. They pulled their wounded from the wreckage. They recovered escape pods from the debris field. They watched the Thunderchild watching them, its weapons still hot, capable of killing them all at any moment, and the human ship did nothing. It waited, exactly as Captain Chun had promised, far away. On the capital station of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Kalmora watched the battle footage with growing horror. The ambassador was an energy being, ancient and wise, one of the founding species of galactic civilization. Kalmora had seen many things in 10,000 years of life. Nothing compared to this. Pause playback, Kalmora commanded. The holographic display froze, showing the moment when the Thunderchild had first opened fire. Analysis. How did the human weapons penetrate HFY shields? The tactical computer responded. The human railguns fire projectiles at velocities that exceed standard shield tolerances. The plasma weapons operate at temperatures higher than any recorded in galactic databases. Standard shielding technology is ineffective against both. And the human shields? Why could the HFY not damage them? Unknown. Human shield technology appears to use adaptive algorithms that analyze incoming fire and modify defense frequencies in real time. This technology is not present in any galactic database. Kalmora flickered with colors of deep concern. This was why the Council had quarantined the humans 2 centuries ago. This was why they had forbidden all contact. They had hoped the humans would destroy themselves, as many aggressive species did. Instead, the humans had grown stronger. They had developed technology that made the galaxy's most advanced species look primitive. And now they were here. Open a diplomatic channel to the human vessel, Kalmora ordered, on the bridge of the Thunderchild. Captain Chun received the transmission request. She smiled slightly. Put them through. Ambassador Kalmora's energy form appeared on the view screen. Captain Chun, I am Ambassador Kalmora of the Galactic Council. Your actions today have created a serious diplomatic situation. Have they? The HFY hegemony will demand reparations. They will demand justice. The Council cannot ignore an unprovoked attack on a member species. Chum's smile faded. Her eyes went cold. Unprovoked? The HFY were about to bombard a defenseless planet. They were going to murder millions of civilians. Your Council knew about this. You watched it happen. You did nothing. The HFY are not members of the Council. We had no obligation. You had no obligation to save innocent lives? Chun shook her head. And you wonder why we refused to join your civilization? Kalmora paused, uncertain. The Council must insist that you withdraw from this sector. You are in violation of the quarantine agreement. We never signed your quarantine agreement, Ambassador. We never recognized your authority. And we are not going anywhere. Captain, please be reasonable. The HFY are powerful. If this escalates into war, then we will fight a war. Chun leaned forward. Ambassador, let me tell you something about humans. We spent most of our history fighting ourselves. We have been at war, in one form or another, since the day we climbed down from the trees. We have killed millions of our own kind over religion, over resources, over pieces of colored cloth we call flags. We are very, very good at war. Your HFY have been conquering species that cannot fight back. They have never faced an enemy that refuses to surrender. They have never faced us. Kalmora's form flickered with uncertainty. What do you want, Captain? I want you to leave us alone. I want you to stop pretending that your council represents justice or peace or civilization. And I want you to know that from now on, any species that asks for our help will receive it. We will not let the innocent suffer because helping them is inconvenient. The transmission ended. Kalmora floated in silence for a long moment. Then the ambassador spoke to an aide. Call an emergency session of the council. Full attendance. The quarantine has failed. The humans are no longer contained. Kalmora's energy form dimmed with something like despair. And I fear that the galaxy will never be the same. In orbit around Vethkar Prime, the Thunderchild waited as the last Etheri rescue shuttles collected survivors. When the 30 minutes expired, the surviving ships activated their engines and limped away. Broken and humiliated. Captain Chen watched them go. Her weapons officer looked at her. We could destroy them, Captain. Finish it. No. Chen shook her head. We killed enough today. Let them go home. Let them tell their leaders what happened here. Fear is a weapon too. She turned to the navigation officer. Take us into orbit. We have relief supplies to deliver and people to help. The Thunderchild descended toward Vethkar Prime, not as a conqueror, but as a protector. Below, the Vethkari emerged from their shelters. They looked up at the sky and saw the human ship. They did not understand what it meant yet. They did not know that the universe had changed forever, but they were alive, and that was enough for now. 6 months passed. The galaxy changed more in that time than it had in the previous 1,000 years. Word of the Battle of Vethkar Prime spread to every corner of known space. It traveled through trade routes and diplomatic channels. It was whispered in slave markets and shouted in rebel hideouts. The story was always the same. A single human ship had destroyed an entire fleet. The humans had saved a world, and they were offering to save others. Signals began flooding toward human space. Desperate messages from dozens of species. Some were under attack. Some were enslaved. Some were simply afraid, living under the shadow of stronger neighbors. They all asked the same question. Will you help us? The Terran Union answered. Ships launched from Earth's orbital shipyards. The Thunderchild was joined by the Defiant, the Resolute, the Indomitable, and dozens of others. They spread across the galaxy like seeds of change. Wherever they went, they brought the same message. You are not alone anymore. On the capital station of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Kelmora called an emergency session. Every member species was required to attend. The chamber was full for the first time in centuries. The situation is critical, Kelmora began. The human quarantine has failed. They are now active throughout the galaxy. They are interfering with the internal affairs of member species. They are disrupting the balance of power that has maintained peace for millennia. Peace? A voice called out. It came from the representative of the Moldari, a species of gentle giants who had lived under Etherveri threat for generations. What peace? The peace where the strong devoured the weak while the council watched? That peace? Murmurs spread through the chamber. The humans saved Vethkar Prime, the Moldari continued. They asked for nothing in return. They offered protection to anyone who needed it. That is more than the council has done in 10,000 years. Kelmora's energy form flickered with frustration. The humans are dangerous. Their weapons are devastating. Their tactics are brutal. If we allow them to act freely, they could destabilize everything we have built. Perhaps what we have built deserves to be destabilized, said another representative. This was the ambassador from a species that had been conquered and freed twice in the last century. Perhaps a galaxy where the innocent are protected is better than a galaxy where they are sacrificed for stability. The debate raged for hours. In the end, the council made its decision. Not out of wisdom, not out of justice, out of fear. The quarantine was lifted. Humanity was invited to join the Galactic Council as a full member species. President James Okonkwo of the Terran Union received the invitation in his office on Earth. He read it carefully. Then he smiled. His response was broadcast to every council member. The Terran Union accepts your invitation. We will take our seat among the galactic community. But understand this, we will not be quiet members. Where you see stability, we see stagnation. Where you see order, we see oppression. We are not here to maintain your peace. We are here to build something better. He paused, letting his words sink in. For 2 centuries, you tried to pretend we did not exist. You hoped we would die in our little corner of space. Instead, we grew strong. We developed technology you cannot match. And we remembered every species you abandoned while you protected your comfort and your power. Okonkwo leaned forward, his eyes hard. The old way is over. A new era begins today. The weak will be protected. The cruel will be punished. And humanity will stand watch over it all. This is not a threat. This is a promise. On Vethkar Prime, Elder Luminara watched the broadcast with tears in her eyes. Around her, her people celebrated. For the first time in their history, they did not fear the stars dot in the central square of the capital city. Workers put the finishing touches on a massive monument. It was a sculpture of the Thunderchild, rendered in crystal that caught the light of the twin suns. The ship seemed to glow from within, fierce and protective. Beneath the sculpture, an inscription had been carved in 100 languages. They came when no one else would. Luminara touched the crystal with trembling hands. She thought of Captain Chun, now commanding a battle group somewhere on the far side of the galaxy. She thought of the humans she had met, strange creatures who laughed and cried and loved just like her people did. She thought of the impossible gift they had given her world. Hope. Real hope. Hope that the universe could be better. Far away, on the bridge of the Thunderchild, Captain Chun reviewed the latest batch of distress signals. A dozen species needed help. A dozen worlds faced extinction or enslavement. Her crew worked around her, preparing for the next mission. Her communications officer looked up. Captain, we have received word from command. The Ethavari are massing near the Moldari colonies. It looks like they are planning to test our resolve. Chum set down her coffee. Her eyes went cold. Navigation, plot a course. Weapons, bring us to combat readiness. The crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had done this before. They would do it again, as many times as necessary. Chum allowed herself a small smile. She thought of the message Elder Luminara had sent her last week, describing the monument, describing the hope spreading through her people. She thought of all the species out there, waiting for rescue. This was what humanity was meant to do. Not conquer, not rule, protect. All hands, Chan announced over the ship's intercom. We have another mission, another world that needs our help. You know what to do. She looked out at the stars, endless and ancient, and full of both beauty and cruelty. Let's go introduce ourselves. The Thunderchild's engines roared to life. The ship leaped forward, cutting through space like a blade through darkness. Behind it, the galaxy was transforming. Old powers trembled. New alliances formed. Species that had lived in fear began to stand tall. And in the center of it all, humanity spread across the stars. Not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as guardians, as protectors. As the answer to every desperate prayer whispered into the void, the warning had gone out across the galaxy. Everyone knew what it meant now. A human battleship had joined the battle, and everything had transformed forever. The human shuttle landed in the central square of the Vethkari capital city. Elder Luminara stood waiting, surrounded by her counselors and hundreds of citizens, who had come to see the creatures from legend with their own eyes. The shuttle door opened. Captain Amara Chun stepped out, followed by a small team of humans carrying boxes of supplies. Medical equipment, food, water purification systems. Everything a recovering world might need. Chun was shorter than Luminara had expected. Humans were small compared to many galactic species. They had no claws, no armored skin, no natural weapons of any kind. Looking at them, it was hard to believe they could be dangerous. Then Luminara looked into Captain Chine's eyes. She understood. The danger of humans was not in their bodies. It was in their minds, in their will, in their absolute refusal to accept defeat. "Elder Luminara," Chun said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "I am Captain Amara Chen. We came as quickly as we could." Luminara took the human's hand. It was warm, soft, and steady. "You came," Luminara said. Her bioluminescence blazed with colors of gratitude and wonder. The stories were true. All these years, we thought they were just legends. "They were not legends," Chun said. 200 years ago, when humans first reached the stars, the Galactic Council looked at us and saw animals. They saw primitives. They decided we were too dangerous to be allowed into their civilization, so they put up walls and hoped we would die behind them. Chun's voice hardened. "We did not die. We grew, and we made a promise to ourselves. The Council abandoned us. Fine. But we would never abandon others. Any species that calls for our help will receive it. That is the deal. The deal?" Chun nodded. "We cannot fight everyone's wars. We are not gods. But we have ships. We have weapons. And we have people willing to use them to protect the helpless." She gestured at the supplies her team was unloading. "This is the beginning. We will help you rebuild your defenses. We will train your people. And if the HFY ever return, they will find a very different Vethkar Prime waiting for them." Luminara felt tears forming in her eyes. In all her long life, she had never imagined that salvation would come from the stars. She had never imagined that hope would wear a human face. "Why?" she asked. "Why do you help us? You gain nothing from this. The Council will make you enemies. The HFY will want revenge. Why risk so much for strangers?" Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. "Because someone should," she said. "Because the universe is dark and cold and full of creatures that hurt each other for power and profit. And because humans know what it is like to be abandoned. We know what it is like to face extinction alone." She met Luminara's eyes. "We will not let others suffer what we suffered. Not while we have the strength to prevent it." Luminara bowed deeply, her light shining with the color of eternal gratitude. Far away, in the heart of the HFY hegemony, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Fleet Commander Zixthil stood before the Supreme Hive, the Council of Queens that ruled his species. He had expected to be executed for his failure. Instead, the queens listened in horrified silence as he described the battle. One ship, one human ship, had destroyed his entire fleet. And then, impossibly, the humans had shown mercy. "Show us the weapon analysis," the eldest queen commanded. Holographic displays filled the chamber. HFY scientists had studied every fragment of data from the battle. Their conclusions were terrifying. "The human railguns fire projectiles at velocities we cannot match," a scientist explained. "Their plasma weapons burn hotter than our shields can withstand. Their point defense systems create walls of fire that destroy our missiles before they can reach their targets. And their shields..." The scientist paused, as if unwilling to continue. "Their shields learn. They analyze our weapons and adapt in real time. Within minutes of the battle starting, our weapons were nearly useless." "How is this possible?" a queen demanded. "The humans are young. They have only had space travel for 2 centuries. How can they be so far ahead of us?" "They developed in isolation," another scientist said. "They had no teachers, no guidance, no rules. They did not learn the proper way to do things. They created their own way. And their way is..." He struggled for the right word. "Brutal," efficient, terrifying. The eldest queen spoke slowly. What are our options? We could gather the full might of the hegemony, Commander Zixthil said. Every ship, every soldier. We could attack Earth directly. And would we win? Zixthil hesitated. The Thunderchild was a standard battleship, one of hundreds in the human fleet. If we attacked their homeworld, we would face all of them, plus planetary defenses, plus whatever other weapons they have not yet shown us. He lowered his head. I do not believe we would survive. Silence filled the chamber. Then what do we do? A younger queen asked. The eldest queen's mandibles clicked in a pattern of deep thought. We remember, we learn, and we never, ever attack a species under human protection again. She turned to address the full council. Send word to all hegemony forces. Any world that claims human alliance is to be avoided. Any ship flying human colors is to be given free passage. We will find our conquests elsewhere. There are many species in this galaxy. We will leave the humans and their friends alone. It was not a victory. It was survival. And for the Ethavari, who had never known defeat, it was a transformation. Back on Vethkar Prime, Captain Chun walked with Elder Luminara through the recovering city. Vethkari children approached them, curious about the strange beings who had saved their world. Chun knelt down to meet them, her stern face softening into something like warmth. They have never seen humans before, Luminara said. We tend to have that effect on people, Chun replied. Give them time. They will get used to us. Will you stay? Not me. I have other duties. But we will leave a garrison. A few ships. Enough to make anyone think twice about attacking you. Chun stood and looked out at the crystal spires of the city, catching the light of the twin suns. You have a beautiful world, Elder. It deserves to be protected. Captain Chun, Luminara said, the Galactic Council will not be pleased with what you have done. They will try to stop you. Chun smiled. It was a human expression that Luminara was beginning to understand. It meant that the human was thinking dangerous thoughts. The Council has been ignoring suffering for 10,000 years, Chun said. They have built their peace on the bodies of the weak. That peace is over now. We are going to change things. Change things? How? Chun looked up at the sky, where the Thunderchild orbited in silent watchfulness. One rescue at a time, she said. One battle at a time. Until the galaxy learns that there is a price for cruelty. Until every tyrant knows that somewhere out there, humans are watching. And waiting. And ready. Luminara's light blazed with something new. Something she had never felt before. Hope. Not just for her people. For everyone, the universe was about to be transformed. And humanity was just getting started.